All right, so about a week ago, I finished my first 50-mile ultra marathon. I did the Rocky 50 down in Huntsville, Texas, and I actually did it in 9 hours and 3 minutes. I got third place in my age group and 15th place overall. So it turned out to be a much better day than I expected, but obviously it was a very, very challenging day. So I get asked two questions all the time when it comes to ultra marathons and ultra running, and that's why do I do it? Why do I decide to go out and run such long distances at a time, so many hours at a time? And then two, how do I do it? How do I train for it? What do I eat? Do I even stop to pee or poop while I'm out there running? Today we're specifically getting into the why. Why do I choose to go essentially do this to my body? Why do I choose to go out there for so many hours at a time when I could be spending the time doing something else, something maybe more fun, or even spending that time working on my businesses? Now, on this surface level, I can tell you that ultra running has had a profound impact on my life. It's one, made me a better human being, even physically. Obviously, physically, I've lost over 30 pounds since I started, training for ultra marathons. But then on the flip side, with my businesses, I can tell you that this has had a profound impact on the success of my businesses. Even though I've been taking that time away from, directly working on my businesses, the effects I've gotten out of this have helped my businesses grow and be even more successful. So today we're going to get into the exact why and more of the deeper reasons, more of the mindset effects I've gotten out of it, and maybe you can apply this to your life. So first off, I know many of you out there follow David Goggins. You've probably read his book, Can't Hurt Me, and that's actually, one of the first things that got me into ultra running. I already knew of ultra marathons and ultra running, but reading Can't Hurt Me really, really pushed me into it. A lot of people read Can't Hurt Me, and they like to apply it to their life, kind of going one more, doing things you don't want to do, whether that's taking a cold shower, something like that. I actually took David Goggins' words very, very literally and decided to start training for an ultra marathon myself. So back earlier last year, I did a 50K. That was my first technically ultra marathon. That's 31 miles. But then last week I decided to go ahead and do a 50 miler. And that was because, I was getting more and more and more of the effects. The longer I would go, I'd get more of the positive effects from it. So David Goggins in the book, and then anytime he's talking, he always talks about callousing the mind. The reason he does ultra marathons and ultra running, is essentially doing things he doesn't want to do, is so he calluses his mind, makes himself impermeable to, negative situations. And that's one big thing. One thing I noticed right off the bat when I was going through, really, really doing these long distances, was when you go into those low pain moments. And I went through several of those during the 50-mile race last week. When you go through those super low pain moments where your body and your mind is screaming at you to quit, everything is wanting to quit, and you keep pushing yourself, you keep going forward, that calluses the mind to essentially be able to withstand anything. When you go ahead and you put yourself in situations and you do things that you don't want to do, you're training yourself to essentially be able to withstand anything. And you're also gaining control of your mind to where when your mind doesn't want to do anything, and when you're essentially maybe not in the mood to go do something, or you're not in the mood to, say work on something with your business, or something that you don't want to do, you're going to go ahead and do it. You've trained yourself and you've put yourself in that situation. You're doing that on a daily basis to do that. And when you go ahead and you train for an ultra marathon, at least when you're really, really training to do it right, you're every day putting your shoes on, no matter the conditions outside, and you're going ahead and doing that. So that's one of the first big things. The first big, positive effects I saw was this callous mind effect that, things just don't affect me near as much anymore, especially negative situations. Anything that comes up with my business, there's roadblocks all the time when it comes to businesses, no matter whether you're in e-commerce, you own a restaurant, whatever. You've got roadblocks that come up all the time as a business owner. And now those negative situations that come up, they seem so much smaller in comparison than before I ran ultramarathons, or before I started training for ultramarathons. Now, directly when it comes to actually running the 50-mile race, when I would take those low pain moments and I would keep going through, the beautiful thing is that through those low pain moments, you'd come out and you'd have this very, very blissed out high state. Now, the cool thing about ultramarathons is, as your body degrades over time, the longer you go, you keep going to this kind of new set level of pain. So you have this new threshold of You start out here, you're very, very fresh, you feel good. Well, maybe by mile 15, you're now down to here. That's your new kind of set high level. Then you go down to here, you keep going to these new low pain moments, and it keeps getting harder and harder and harder and worse and worse and worse. But the beautiful thing is as you go through these pain caves, even though those pain caves get deeper and more intense, the highs and the blissed out states also become more intense. So that's a kind of a beautiful, kind of quick little thing you get out of it, more on the acute level. And that's something that I guess you could get a little bit addicted to. That's really getting into the runner's high and endorphins and all of that. But that is, a cool thing that while you go through the actual race itself, I'm not really talking as much the training here, as you're going through the race itself, you really, really experience a lot of things in one day. So the 9 hours it took me to run that, I went through a lot of really, really low pain moments, but it came out on each side of those pain moments really, really, really high moments as well. So when it comes to business and all of that, that's where a lot of the more kind of mindset, David Goggins, callousing the mind, doing things you don't want to do, all of that, that's where that came in. On the more human level, and this is something I didn't expect, because I started training for ultramarathons, coming from listening to David Goggins and wanting that callous mind effect, wanting to train my mind to essentially just be able to withstand anything and do things I didn't want to do. But one thing I wasn't expecting is I essentially had almost this spiritual transformation over the last year. So me putting in all these miles, week after week after week, through the last year and a half, especially the last year, I've had a huge transformation in myself, to where it's even changed my personality, changed my outlook on life. And really what I boil it down to is when you go through these pain moments, and you spend all this time out in the woods or trails by yourself, really, really, really cool things happen. So I know a lot of you out there might have heard of Ryan Holiday, the author who wrote Ego is the Enemy and Stillness is Key. A lot of what he talks about in both of those books, especially Stillness is Key, ultra running checks those off the list. So he talks in Stillness is Key, how to find stillness. A lot of people used, forest baths. So I believe it was the Japanese. A lot of people would go out and they would essentially go into the woods by themselves for a forest bath. Then he talked about taking long walks. Then he talked about meditation. Ultra running checks a lot of these off the book. So, I tell people that running for me has become an active meditation. While I'm out there, it's not the same thing as when I actually sit down and I do true meditation, but it still is like this level of active meditation. Two, I'm getting out there on the trails by myself, and it becomes forest baths, which is a really, really cool thing. I encourage you to read about that. But then three, and this is a really, really big one, and this is arguably the biggest one, the most surprising thing for me, is essentially whenever I go through those low pain moments, it's essentially where I'm killing off the ego. A lot of people talk about, microdosing shrooms or doing shrooms or psychedelics and all of that. I'm not going to get into my experiences with any of that today, but I can tell you that there's a very, very real ego death when you go through these very, very challenging events. And that's probably been the most beautiful thing to come out of this. With the ego death, and it's something that has to keep going time and time again. It's not something that, I've just killed off the ego for good, any of that. It's something that, I go through moments where, maybe I'm not doing as much miles or whatever that, and I need to lace up. But it's something I crave now to get out there, to really, really have control of the ego. And it makes my meditation even be better, because of it. It's something that I was not expecting with running. And because of that, I've experienced such a deep, profound level of peace and love for essentially everybody out there because of ultra running. That's where all of this has been very much unexpected, and a very, very nice, beautiful side effect of that is this very, very deep level of peace and this kind of overarching spiritual transformation I've had the last year. So my why when I started was essentially, following after David Goggins' footsteps, to callous the mind, to essentially have an iron mind, be able to withstand anything that comes my way, whether that be, something negative with my business, something physical, anything like that, or something relational. But then what I also got from it, because I got that in spades, what I also got from it was this, very, very spiritual transformation, to where it is a continual ego death when I go through these long events. And I found this very, very deep level of peace. Now, if you guys want to hear more about any of that, I can definitely do other videos. That could be, a whole long topic on its own. And it's why it keeps me going out there. But I've absolutely, fallen in love with this sport. I definitely plan to keep doing this. I've got a 50 miler I'm planning up in April. Going to do another one here in Texas. And then later this year, I want to go ahead and knock out my first 100 miler. But this is something I'm definitely going to keep doing. There's more and more and more benefits to come out of this. I know that, and it gets better and better and better the longer I go. So you could say I'm ultra crazy now, but that is why I do. I know many of you out there have probably wondered why I do this, and that really is why. It's, for the callous mindset effects, but then too, now it's also this spiritual cleansing I get from it. But if you guys want to know how I do this, how I've actually trained for this, because I started as a complete beginner, not a runner, and now, I'm actually, I'm not elite by anyone's standards, but, I actually, performed much better than I expected in the 50-mile race for my first one. So if you guys want to know exactly how I'm training, all of that, I can do full videos on that, what I eat, any of that. But this is more for, all of you entrepreneurs out there that wanted to know why I spend all these hours of my time that I could be directly working on my business. That's why. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's definitely a different type of video for this channel, but I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, please go ahead and smash that like button. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. Leave any comments or questions down below. Be happy, be positive, be powerful, and have a great rest of your day.